Through the darkness of future past, the magician longs to see one chance out between two worlds. Fire, pod with me. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Twin Peaks podcast, Fire Pod with Me, where we're going to be talking about the return of Twin Peaks, Part 13. So, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, dude. My name's Vinny. With me, as always, is my friend Steven. Say hi, Steven.
Hello, but I think you said my name wrong. It's actually Pete Martell.
Oh,
wait,
shoot.
no,
Yeah,
sorry.
that's right.
I'm Wyndham Earl. You're Pete.
Yeah, I thought we might have switched bodies real
Right.
quick, so...
Went through the Black
yeah,
Lodge.
So today we're going to be talking about fishing and all the kind of different bait you need to get different kinds of fish and all the different kinds of percolators.
And chess.
And chess, yeah, that too. So, Steven, what'd you think of the episode?
Man, I liked it. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as, 2 episodes ago? It's 2 episodes ago the one we really enjoyed?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I enjoyed it. There weren't as many developments as I thought, or at least in certain areas.
In the later part of it.
Yeah. Just because, like, the last episode left us with, a good amount of, like, confusion towards the end. And not really any of that was resolved. And also, we finally got what we wanted with Big Ed, but not really, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It looked that way at first, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess let's just go ahead and get into it then. Episode starts with that wonderful conga line.
Yeah.
And so yeah, the Mitchum brothers and Dougie and the Mitchum brothers ladies, they all bust into the insurance agency where Dougie works, and they have gifts for Battle and Bud, and they tell them that they got Battle and Bud a matching car to go with the car that they got Dougie.
Quite the gift.
Yeah. A gift that you might expect from a couple of billionaires like the Mitchum brothers, though.
They're cool guys, and they're very happy. I love to see that Mitchum brothers happy.
Yeah. One of fantastic quotes I wrote down. Battle and Bud, you're the man. I love that. I love how excited Jim Belushi's character always gets. Seeing either one of them excited is always fun. They continue to just keep laying on the love for Bud and Dougie. And another thing Jim Belushi's character says is, a wrong has been made right, and the sun is shining bright. And so in that scene we see what's the dickhead's
Anthony.
name? Anthony, yes, thank you. Anthony is hiding behind his desk because he's like, shit, they were supposed to kill Dougie, not become his BFF.
Yeah.
So he calls up Duncan Todd, who is the rival of the Mitchum brothers, and that's about all we know about him, and that he's more than likely working with Scale Cooper, because he's been receiving the phone calls and whatnot. He tells Duncan Todd that Dougie's not dead, and he's like, well, now you gotta kill him. Remember, that was our agreement. Now you have to fucking kill him. And Anthony's like, okay. And he's like, you got it. Yeah, I'm giving you 1 day. And he's like, but last time you said 2. And he's like, no, you only got 1.
Yeah, he wasn't very happy with Anthony.
No, I mean, not a whole lot of us were until later in the episode.
Yeah.
Steven, what do you think is going on with this whole Duncan Todd conspiracy?
Oh. Well, that's what, like, I don't know. That's the big question, because refresh my memory a little bit here, but there were 2 hits, right, out in Vegas that Was it Scale Coop that ordered it, or that we think?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I do think Dougie was one of them. I'm not sure what they have planned next or who the other victim might be. Because it also begs the question. Like, I feel like I could touch on this a little bit later too, but I don't know. There might be more developments as far as like the hit with other characters.
Right.
But that I'm not sure. That's speculation at this point. But so yeah, we'll touch on that a little bit later. But I don't know. You know, it's. Do you still think that the two hits could be Janie E and Dougie or someone else
I'm thinking that maybe.
or Bud?
Yeah, well, see, I was thinking it could possibly be the Mitchum brothers
Oh yeah.
or the two cops that we see later in this episode.
Interesting.
Maybe.
The brothers?
But not the Fusco brothers, but
Oh
the,
yeah.
The guys that Anthony is talking to
Yeah.
later in the episode. But once again, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Well, I love that like these always like come down to us being like, man, I don't know. Even though there's like 5 episodes left.
We're yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
I love the fact that we're like an analytical podcast of the show, and a lot of the times all we have to say is, well, who knows?
Well, the thing is,
we're just guessing, really.
The thing is, like the way that I enjoy us like having these conversations is we very well could go onto Reddit and like tell everybody exactly what the theories are going around the net. You know what I mean? But I like just kind of figuring it out on our own, or at least trying to, because there's a lot of like for example, we can touch on this later. But the scene at the scene at the end of last episode with Audrey and the character names that we weren't really familiar with, people started connecting the dots that maybe that had to do with that scene from earlier in the series with Andy when he went
right.
And like I kind of had a notion of that a little bit, but not really. But again, like we could have double checked and been like, oh, okay, this is what's exactly going on. But I don't know. I like it more to be an open-ended conversation rather than like, you know, us telling people, us talking out of our ass and being like, this is exactly what's going on. Because we really don't know. Because there's a lot of things that I expected to happen that really didn't. Like, I had the theory that potentially Becky was like this Laura type character, and I still haven't. I mean, that seems like it's out the window now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Like, she's more of a Shelley, just another Shelley.
Yeah, exactly. And Shelley is still very much Shelley too.
Shelley, yeah, she's still Shelley. Yeah.
Man.
Well, continuing on with the episode, we cut back to the Jones household.
Yep.
And they're delivering a fucking gym set for Sonny Jim, which I thought was hilarious.
That was like one of my favorite scenes in this whole episode for sure.
Yeah. The music that they had play when it's all set up was great. I loved that.
Yeah. And it just reminds me because like the jungle gym is very like no jungle gym in real life looks like that, you know? Like it's lit up with LED lights like throughout the whole thing. There's like a spotlight going back and forth, like it's some sort of like it's on a stage. And it just reminds me of like David Lynch talks about it all the time, but like I just watched his Charlie Rose interview yesterday where he talks about like, and he's talked about this again multiple times, like he was talking about when he made Eraserhead. And he said that like he didn't really like consciously know what these like making these like abstract ideas and like characters, and he didn't know that it could be symbolism. He was just like he saw these things in his head and then just like put it out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that, like that, I don't know, that scene just kind of like reminded me of that like it doesn't make really any sense for the jungle gym to look like that, but why not do it? You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of directors, they might see something like that, but like in their mind when they're imagining a story, but or writers,
They'll,
but it,
but they would
yeah, they,
kind of compromise it later to have it be more realistic. Is that what you
yeah,
mean?
exactly. Like they want to ground it more to earth, but that's never been a part of his, like, I
Hmm.
don't know, his way of storytelling. But it all, the thing that I love about it is like whenever there's some sort of like avant-garde um aspect to his stories or whatever he's working on, like it never feels out of place. It never feels like he's not being abstract just to be abstract. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know, that whole scene just like reminded me of all that. I'm like, man, it's so good.
No, that's a great observation of that.
Anyway, that's my
Uh,
two. I mean, we could all go on forever about why David Lynch is the best, but that scene just
right.
reminded me of that for sure.
Yeah. Well, definitely. And once again, like the music and the lights and everything made it very dreamlike, which is it's
Yeah,
wonderful. So Dougie comes home, sees the gym set, everything, great. Next scene we get, we're in West Montana, which we, as far as I know, we haven't really gone to West Montana before this,
right.
and we see Ray hanging out with a big buff guy and like some other dirty looking fellas watching a big TV, and they watch none other than Mr. C the Slide Man, Bad Coop, Booper, Scale Cooper himself driving in. And so they shut the garage behind him, and Ray's talking about, like, that's the guy I killed. Like, I swear to God, I killed that guy. And Renzo's like, he doesn't look dead to me. And so this whole scene, I I'm just gonna like I want to say that this scene like made me think of it felt very almost SpongeBob-ish to me.
Really?
Like because I saw where it was going as soon as it started, and it kind of reminded me of the scene in the SpongeBob movie when they go to the biker
Yeah.
bar.
You know what? That's not too far off for sure.
That's kind of what it made me think of. Very cartoonish, I should say. So Scale Cooper gets out of the car, and he's like, I want to talk to Ray. And so they're like, get up here. So they have him come up in the elevator, and this guy named Muddy is explaining that Renzo is everybody in that room's boss, and he's like, you get a chance to become the new boss yourself, but the way you gotta do it is you gotta arm wrestle Renzo. And he's like, if Renzo wins, he's your boss. If you win, you're our boss. Which is such like a ridiculous way of thinking.
It's a great pyramid scheme though.
I love
Like
it.
you just got it. It's just one time. You got to arm wrestle him, and then you're at the top. You're the CEO of this gang.
And so, of course, Scale Cooper's like, all right, if I win, I don't want to be your boss. I just want Ray. And so, he's like, I don't give a shit. So they, one of the lines that I wrote down was, he's like, what is this, kindergarten?
Yeah.
Is this nursery school? So they walk in and start. Well, they head towards the arm wrestling table, and Renzo kind of knocks Scale Cooper on the back of the head, and he's like, that's from the nursery school teacher. They sit down, and they're about ready to arm wrestle, and Muddy explains the rules of arm wrestling, arm on the table in the starting position. You can't have your other arm on the table. And so they start arm wrestling, and Renzo's like almost got Scale Cooper pinned down, but Scale's just like hovering right above like the edge of the table so he won't lose. And he just starts playing with Renzo. And he keeps on like putting him back in the starting position and saying the starting position is much more comfortable. And just completely messing with him. And the whole time his whole crew is all cheering him on, like, "Oh, finish him, Renzo, finish him." Anyway, Scale eventually stops playing with him, breaks his arm, and then punches him with so much force that he caves Renzo's face in.
Yeah. Can I just say, talk about poor sportsmanship. Like, you already won, you know? Do you think it's because he knocked him on the back of the head that he was like, well, I'll just fucking kill you and, you know, cave your face in?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, if Renzo would have been respectful to Scale Coop, he would have been like, okay.
Yeah,
fair is
probably.
fair. Yeah, that's probably right. But I certainly wasn't expecting it. It's just a quick 1-2. Breaks his arm, fucking kills him. And like Ray,
great.
Ray goes to shoot him right afterwards, and then the whole crew's like, no, because like, no, we're not fucking.
Yeah, that guy's our Bob. We don't want to get face punched.
Because if I'm not mistaken, Renzo, the guy that plays him, is the same guy who plays like Jason. Like,
really?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he looks familiar to me. I didn't double check, but that's what I thought when I first saw him. So
that's funny.
The thought that Scale Coop just fucking killed him like that is pretty unreal.
I loved it. That was probably one of my favorite parts of the episode.
How the fuck is like a car crash almost? Because we thought at the beginning that car crash almost took him out.
Yeah.
But it was also because Coop was coming back into the world, and so there was like the electric aspect of it that was like fucking with Scale Coop, but like
apart from the Garmin Bozia,
right? And so I don't know. It's just funny to contrast like that hope that, oh man, he might die, to him having like, you know, fucking super strength and not being able to die, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, being shot and just being fine. Scale Cooper tells his new boys to leave the room. He needs some privacy with Ray. And again, very cartoonish. Ray's like, "Can't we talk about this?" and like sprints away, and Scale just shoots him in the leg and is like, "No, fuck you." One of the weird things about this scene was there was just like one guy in the crew that was like nicely dressed, and I made a comment to my girlfriend about it, and she was like, he must be their accountant.
That's
like,
exactly what I thought too. That's what I said.
We were just joking about it, and then he's the only one that hasn't left the room. So Ray's like writhing in pain, and Scale looks over, and the guy in the suit is still standing in the room. And Cooper like looks at him, and the guy just goes, "Do you need any money?" And Scale goes, "No." and he's like, "Okay," and he just walks down the stairs.
What was funny about that scene to me was that it was an oddly like relatable thing where, like, I don't know, I'm sure it's happened to everyone in like school where like you get like a group instruction and everybody goes to do it, but you still have a question, so you kind of hang back to figure out, you know what I mean? Like figure out if it applies to you. So it was oddly relatable to me. But it was just funny that he would like you just see this man fucking cave someone's face in, and then you're like, oh, let me hang back just to make sure he's all good.
That's a good way to look at that. I like that. So Steven, I don't know how well you took notes on this interrogation.
Yeah.
But I'll let you go ahead and kind of explain that.
Oh man, huge, right?
Yeah.
Evil Coop starts questioning Ray as they're in like this Reservoir Dogs type of position while Ray's bleeding out from the leg. And Ray tells him that Philip Jeffries is the one who hired him to kill Scale Coop, correct? He said, Well, the thing that's like that leaves some like mystery to that is he says, well, he at least said his name was Philip Jeffries.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We can touch on that in a second, but yeah, that was pretty crazy. And then I think he had mentioned that Jeffries is the one who set the whole prison deal up.
Yeah.
So what did he mean by that exactly? Because wasn't Scale Coop kind of the one that was leading the the arrangements there, like getting the car and everything?
I think because he told the warden his demands.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming what Ray meant was the warden contacted Philip Jeffries, maybe,
yeah.
and Philip Jeffries set him up to go down there with the car and everything.
Yeah, that would make sense. I just wasn't sure on that. One of the huge things that Scale Coop says, he asked Ray, did he ever mention Major Briggs?
Mm-hmm.
And Ray says no. And then, there's a little bit of like banter, but Scale Coop looks at Ray and realizes he's wearing the infamous gold and green ring. Is it safe to call that Mike's ring?
I would call it the Owl Cave ring.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But he wasn't wearing it.
Oh no, that's right. He pulled it out, right?
Yeah, he had it in his pocket. He said something. He said that Philip Jeffries told him to put it on Scale Cooper
after he killed him.
After
that's
he killed
right.
him.
That's right.
Yeah, and so Scale Cooper tells him to put it on,
knowing that it'll send him to the Black Lodge once he dies.
Yeah,
and I think to me that's kind of a development. And I could be wrong, but I always thought there was some sort of like, especially after watching Firewalk with me, I thought there was some sort of direct, and maybe there is, like maybe Mike is the one that like gives people the ring or whatever. But I just thought there was more of an association to the ring with Mike, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
But after watching that, I'm like, man, I don't really know the full spectrum of its powers. You know what I mean, or what it all does. But that was pretty crazy. What else? Oh yeah, there was more. Yeah. He tells Ray to put it on, and then Ray says that he got the coordinates from Hastings and Ruth.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you think they got in contact? Do you think Ray was a fan of their website?
That's a great question. I think, what I'm assuming is that Ray and Scale Cooper, or whoever Ray was with at the time, were the people that showed up and
oh right,
because Bill keeps talking about, well, he used to keep talking about how the bad people came and threatened him. Yeah, I think that's Ray.
Yep.
Something else that was interesting about this interrogation scene is we see our boy Richard Dick Horn
Richie Rich
come in, and
Papa?
He starts watching. Yeah, and that couldn't help but think maybe he was like, Dad?
Yeah. Cool. Sees his gross ass dad. Leather skin.
Yeah.
And then so Coop starts asking, like, do you know where Philip Jeffries is, right? Like, can you take me to him or something? And he said no. But then he says he was at a place called, I'm not sure if I heard this right, the Dutchman. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, the Dutchman's.
And then as soon as he said that, Coop put a bullet in his brain. So,
yep.
Rip Ray. So, are we familiar? Am I just uncultured here? But is the Dutchman's, is that something we're already familiar with or no?
No. It did add to my SpongeBob connection, right. But aside from that, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't think of anything. I did love that he was like, last I heard, he was at a place called the Dutchman's. He's like, I don't know what that means. And then Cooper shoots him right in the head and just goes, I do.
Oh, that's right. So he knows where he's going then.
Yeah.
Do you think Richard will be like, can I come along, please, Papa? Please?
I don't know if I mean like obviously what from what we know about Richard,
Mm-hmm.
his dad ran out on him, so we don't know if he even knows who could possibly be his dad. We don't know if Audrey was raped or if she, who knows? Maybe Charlie could be his dad. But I think that's it'll be something interesting to see how Richard interacts with Scale Coop if he does interact with him.
Yeah.
Which I feel like he's going to. But.
Right. That's my theory. No, it reminds me of this, like, this is a bit of a tangent. This is off topic, but there's like this internet video with this like Irish guy, and he's explaining that he was getting drunk at a bar and he was about to fight this guy, and he kept looking at him, and he's like they were both about to fight each other, and then they both stopped and they're like, "Do I know you?" And the guy who's telling the story like thought that guy was his dad, and the guy thought he was his son, and then he's just like, turns out we weren't related, but I think he said they fought anyway. But it's funny. It's a lot funnier if you watch the actual video, but
that's great.
It just reminds me, like, maybe when because I don't know, he kind of comes into frame and he's looking at the screen with everyone else. But maybe it's just one of those things where he has this like familiarity, unknowingly, like, like, do I know you from somewhere? Where, yeah.
Right,
so who knows? But no, I agree. I think it'll be really interesting to see how they interact. But I do think that somehow they're gonna get linked up now that their stories are colliding.
Yes, converging, one might say.
Okay, so after that. Anything else from that scene? Well, we should mention that after that happens, we see Ray's body appears in the Black Lodge, and an unseen figure takes the ring and puts it back on the table in the Black Lodge. Do you think that's Mike?
Probably. Yeah. It kind of looked like his jacket.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. But it was interesting to me that they didn't show him.
Yeah. Definitely.
Do you think anyone could interpret that as that being Philip Jeffries or no?
Perhaps. That's a good theory. I like that.
I'm not standing by that theory, but it's an interesting thought.
That is interesting. I like that a lot.
Okay, so so after that we're back in Vegas, right? With the dummy cops.
The Fusco trio.
As I call them, yeah. Fucking basically, they're so frustrating. Basically, they figured out about Scale Coop, right?
Yeah, they took Dougie's prints, and they were like, says he escaped from a federal prison 2 days ago, and then he's like, get this, he's also a missing FBI agent, and his brothers are like, that's wrong, and he's like, fuck yeah, it is. So they just crumple it up and throw it away.
I mean, to be fair, anyone that's not familiar with like the Blue Rose stuff or anything supernatural would probably, of course, be like, yeah, that's wrong. So I can't blame him too much, but it was frustrating.
Yeah. The other thing that I liked about that scene, it starts with one of the Fusco brothers talking to his mom on the phone, but there's like some chaos going on in like the main lobby of that office. And there's this crazy lady, and they're like, she's still pissing on the ground, and she starts yelling, and she says, fuck you, Twinkies, I'll shit in your mouth. And you just hear her get tased, and that's when the other Fusco walks in the room. But I thought that chaos was pretty hilarious.
It reminded me of David Lynch's like video for Comic-Con. Did you see that?
Yes. Yeah, I did see that.
What are you doing with that horse? Fucking.
You can't bring a horse in here. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, just unexplained chaos. Classic. Very Lynchian. All right, yeah, go, and so explain what happens after that.
Yeah, so Anthony walks into the Fusco's office and asks for oh shoot, did you get this guy's name?
I did not, no. I just put down...
Our bad, guys.
Yeah, I just put down Crooked Cop.
Yeah, he asked for Crooked Cop, And they're like, Crooked Cop's outside smoking a cigarette. And he goes, okay. So he kind of creeps out there. He's so nervous this episode.
Yeah.
And he comes out there, and the Crooked Cop's like, what the hell are you doing out here? I told you not to come here. And he's like, no, I need something. It's real important. He's like, all right, what is it? He's like, if I wanted to poison a guy, what's the best thing to use? And the Crooked Cop tells him aconitine. He's like, some labs are catching on to it, but it gives you 2 hours to like make a clean getaway or whatever. And he's like, how do I get it? He's like, you fucking pay me $5,000. So they set up a meeting to do that, and as he's walking away, a different cop walks over to Crooked Cop and is like, what's going on here? And he's like, we better call Duncan Todd.
Yep.
So let's see here. After that, we cut to Tim Roth and Chantel. They're not eating Wendy's. She's back on her Cheeto kick.
Yeah.
But they have a short conversation about Mormonism.
Yeah, because they're on the road and they arrive in Utah. Is that right?
Yeah, they're driving through Utah.
Yeah.
And so they have a short conversation about Mormonism. And then we cut back to Vegas again, and we see Dougie. Well, we see Dougie get dropped off at work by Janie in the new car. And he comes to the door. Obviously can't get through the door. He's Dougie. Somebody gets it for him.
Mm-hmm.
And Anthony's waiting to meet him. And he's like, Dougie, how about we get a nice cup of coffee? And Dougie's like, hell fucking yeah. Verbatim, that's what he says. And so they go to that little coffee and pie shop that's in their business building, and have like the most awkward like it seemed like an awkward first date. Anthony kept making like weird half smiles and like trying to not make eye contact because he's nervous. I just thought that was so funny. Anyway, they both get their coffees handed to them. And Dougie kind of gets distracted by he must have like heard like the coffee maker, and so he like goes over to the counter and starts looking at the cherry pie. And while he's doing this, Anthony grabs his coffee cup and pulls out the poison and pours it into the coffee cup, sets it back over, and waits for Dougie to come out. And so the waitress tells Dougie, I'll bring some cherry pie to your table. Go sit down, enjoy your coffee. So Dougie makes his way back out there, and he's about to sit down, but he sees some like powder around the collar of Anthony's shirt. So he starts like rubbing Anthony's shoulders,
getting rid of that dandruff.
Yeah. And was that what that was? Was that
I think
dandruff?
so. I think Anthony just doesn't use Head and Shoulders. I think he's got a little bit of a dry scalp problem.
I love that. That makes that way funnier. I thought maybe it was like cocaine or poison or something.
Him just like rubbing his whole body in cocaine, like rolling.
It makes so much more sense for it to be dandruff. I was gonna ask you what you thought the powder was. That's so funny. So Dougie starts rubbing his shoulders, and he's like, "There's your coffee, Dougie. Just drink it." And Dougie, of course, repeating only the most important words, so that Dougie ends up making his own sentences. Your coffee is what he says. freaks out Anthony, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt anybody." And he takes the coffee, sprints off with it, pours it down the urinal, and like throws the cup away, sprints out of the bathroom. And the guy in the stall next to him goes, "That bad, huh?" I love that. Do we get led into him talking with Battle and Bud right after that? Or do we
cut back to Twin Peaks, and then we come back in a.
Okay,
yeah.
Right.
It's just one scene in Twin Peaks, but yeah, we just see Dougie enjoying his cherry pie and coffee while.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Well, that chaos
Yeah.
happens. You want to talk about what happens in Twin Peaks then?
Yeah, nothing too substantial, but Shelly's working at the diner, of course, and Becky calls her, and she's upset and crying because Steven hasn't been home in like 2 days, right?
Yep.
And then Shelly's like, "Well, I'm sorry. I wish I could help you." No, she's like, I can't leave work, but why don't you come down and I'll get you a nice slice of pie?" And Becky's like, "Yeah, that sounds nice." And that was the scene. Nice little touching dialogue, but that's really it.
Mm.
And now we're back in
yeah.
Vegas.
Yeah, then we end up back in Vegas. And Anthony is weeping for forgiveness. I love it. He saw right through me.
Yeah.
It's too good. But Battle and Bud says that all of this was already brought to his attention through the paperwork that Dougie did earlier in the season. Apparently, somehow through that doodling that Dougie did on the paperwork, it showed that it showed the corruption in those two cops that Anthony was talking to. Anthony, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and Doug even. I think Battle and Bud said that Doug even extradited himself a little bit.
Yeah.
And so Battle and Bud is like, my anger, my contempt for you is subsiding. He's like, are you ready to testify against Duncan Todd? And so Anthony's like, all right. And he's, Battle and Bud kind of mentions the cops.
Mm-hmm.
And Anthony says that they're worse than Todd.
Right.
Which, I'm wondering, well, hold on. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. I just think that's pretty interesting that we haven't been introduced to the crooked cops yet. Mm-hmm. Can I just say I looked up the cast list from this episode, and I think, oh man, I forget the character, what he looked like, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, his name was Walter Lawford. Does that sound right?
No, Walter is...
Who's Walter?
Walter is the...
Oh, Detective... Guy. Sorry, it's Detective Clark.
Yes, yeah.
But anyway, sorry. The thing that was funny to me was that the guy that comes up to him, the other cop, his partner, mm-hmm. his character's name is Crooked Partner, so... we weren't too far off.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Anyway, I just thought that was funny.
Well, I mean, if he doesn't have a name, I don't think that... Because even when people are introduced in the show and they don't have a name, their name always appears in the credits. I don't think we'll be seeing much of these crooked cops then at this point.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, that makes sense.
So who knows how much worse they really are.
Right.
That's pretty funny. That kind of tears a hole in some theories you can come
up
with.
Yeah, but basically Anthony doesn't have what it takes to be a killer. And so, and he even tells Battle and Bud, he's like, even if I die in the process, I can't live like this anymore. Yeah. So I think that might have been...
I've been puking blood.
Yeah, why? If you feel guilty about something, is that really a normal... Like, he might just be dying. Like, Anthony just might be really sick.
Yeah.
So no, I think maybe that was a little bit of foreshadowing. I don't know. I have a feeling Anthony will probably get got by someone.
Right.
But that's just my theory.
Right.
And now moving on. Do you have anything else to say about that?
No, I think we're good on that front.
So yeah, it sounds like Battle and Bud, and with the help of Anthony, are going to be taking down the corruption. We can only hope. And then we have the most absolutely gut-wrenching, heartbreaking scene that I don't even want to talk about because I'm so upset. we're back in.
Well, it starts on a lighter
It
note.
does. It all seems good. I mean, it could be worse, but it just kind of sucks. I don't know. But anyway,
Yeah.
we're back in Twin Peaks. We're at the diner. We see Bobby show up, and he goes to sit at like the bar, and somebody's like, "Hey, come sit with us." It's Big Ed and Norma.
Woo! Shout out to the Big Ed heads.
Big Ed heads, like and subscribe. The wait is finally over. Our boy is back.
Big Ed's home, baby.
Big Ed is indeed home.
I imagine. I wish the return, like the trailer for the series, was just like a quick montage, and then it's just like Norma, we're home, and Star Wars theme.
Man, we'll have to make that fan edit.
Yeah.
So yeah, Bobby goes to have dinner with him, and they're talking, and like Bobby kind of tells him about what's happening with what they found with Major Briggs, his dad's little notes and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is what.
Well,
go ahead.
It's interesting to me. He says, found some stuff my dad left today. So in like 2 or 3 episodes, not a whole lot of time has apparently passed.
How does that make any sense though? Because didn't the incident with the sick girl and the right
happened after,
and it was at nighttime, correct?
Yeah.
So
maybe time is jumping around a little bit. Who knows?
Yeah, I think we have to think like that, just because. I mean, there's like that's I don't know.
It's almost like the show is acting in dream logic sometimes.
Right, because like the first episode sequentially happens also like in episode 5, right? When the 2 people in the penthouse are like outside, and then Coop shows up and then disappears again, you know?
Yeah.
And like you sync it up and it's happening at the same time. So yeah, I think we're probably getting the story in like segments. I don't know. But yeah, that was interesting. So yeah, they're talking, and Norma tells Big Ed, like, I'm gonna go, like, let me go get your supper, right? And I'm pretty sure he says, "Thanks, babe." Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, all is good. And then
all's good in the big head.
Yeah. And then this businessman shows up and kind of gives, like, Norma seems excited to see him, gives him a little peck, or he gives her a little peck on the cheek, and Big Ed's like, "We'll leave you two to talk business."
Yep.
And then him and Bobby go and sit in a booth while Norma and this businessman are talking about, it seems like he has oversight that, like, they've branched out, so now there's 5 diners, right? It's now a chain.
Yeah. So yeah, they franchised the Double R Diner.
Yeah. Which is cool. I encourage that in real life. That would be great.
Right. Well, right before Big Ed sits down in the other booth, he greets the businessman and says, "Good to see you, Walter." Like he's seen him before. They've met. He knows about him. And then as he's sitting down, Walter says, "What's his name again?" Like the corporate dick squeeze couldn't remember his name.
Right. Or Norma kind of hasn't told him about how significant Ed actually is, and maybe that's for a good reason.
Perhaps, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Maybe she doesn't tell him about Ed just so he doesn't get jealous about the relationship they had or have.
Mm-hmm.
Probably past tense, but the whole scene is crazy because the guy's kind of telling, like, Norma, like, you need to change the name of this diner, and this one isn't selling as well as the other restaurants in the chain. And it's so crazy because the whole time, like, the businessman is the focus of the frame, but in the background you can see Ed, and, like, he's, like, just out of focus.
Mhm.
But every probably like 10 seconds, he's like looking down, like talking to Bobby, but you can just see him looking over and staring. And like, it's
Yep.
so crazy because even though he's out of focus and we're not supposed to like pay attention to him in the frame, that's all I could keep looking at. And it was so sad, so heartbreaking.
Right. And so one of the things he's talking about is how the pies are made.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you could be cutting costs by using different ingredients, and Norma's like, no, the ingredients have to be local, organic, and all that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I know you make them with love, but love doesn't always turn a profit.
Right. There's a great he has this quote, let me see if I can't look it up, about so this is what the businessman says to him. He says, Norma, you're a real artist, but love doesn't always turn a profit. And she says, he says, we believe in you 100%, but from a business perspective, the board would like you to consider some alternatives without sacrificing any of the high standards that you're so well known for.
Mm.
And then Norma says, well, if you can explain the alternatives, I'll look into it. So it seems like there's a philosophical difference between them and how they think.
Right.
Which,
go
ahead.
It speaks very true for someone who works for a corporation. Very true to like the corporate guy coming down to your restaurant. Like,
yeah,
this is very much what it's like. Like, you're getting talked down to, but they're trying to like make it sound like they're your best friend.
Right, they're reasoning with you. Yeah, because he says all that to her, and then he's like, dinner later, because obviously they're a thing. But I at least like that. I don't know if they want to give us any sort of hope that they're kind of establishing that maybe she's not very happy with him, or they just have they're just different people. Yeah. Obviously Ed is still can't get over Norma. But I did think it was interesting that they kind of put Bobby and Ed in like very similar positions. You know what I mean? They both miss what they once had, and they're yearning for it. In two different ways. Maybe Bobby's is different. But yeah, it's sad to see because you just want, after all these years, everybody to end up together, and essentially nobody has, right? Besides Andy and Lucy, which is nice. I can't imagine that would be awful if they somehow split up. I don't know how people would feel about that.
Dick Tremaine, dude.
Fucking Dick, come on. Man.
Classic Dick Tremaine, Mr. Steal Your Girl.
He hasn't been in this, has he?
No, he hasn't. He hasn't come back.
He's going to come back with, be like, I want a DNA test.
Who knows? Wally Brando could be his son. We don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
So anyway, after that, we cut to Nadine's silent drape runner shop.
Oh, yeah.
And a truck rolls by, and at first I thought it might be Big Ed.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even think about that.
I was like, no. I was like, there's no way they're still...
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way they're still together. And out of the truck is Dr. Jacoby, Dr. Amp himself. He stopped because he saw his shovel. And Nadine finally gets to tell him how big of a fan she is.
It's a very nice moment.
Yeah, it was kind of a cute little scene. Yeah.
A little bit of a redemption for what had just happened, so...
Right.
If Ed can't find love, at least Nadine can.
Nadine
hopefully.
Can. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I still think she should try the used car manager, Mike Nelson.
But, oh man.
Give him another call.
I loved that when I was watching, because you were ahead of me at one point, right, in the series. And when that kind of first started happening, where like she was falling for Mike Nelson, I was like, oh man, I ship Nadine and Mike so hard. And then for them to actually end up together was just so funny. I'm like, no fucking way that actually happened. I love that.
Season 2 of Twin Peaks is so bizarre. Not in the way that season 3 has been bizarre, but in its own like wacky cartoonish way.
Yeah. No, definitely. Um, yeah, who would have thought that that Twin Peaks could get any weirder because of David
Right.
Lynch's absence? You know?
Right.
Yeah. Weird. Anyway.
So we see Sarah Palmer again, drinking very heavily,
With like
and
the biggest ashtray I've ever seen, just with heaping amounts of cigarette butts. Unreal.
I've seen something like that before. Used to have some buddies that smoked cigarettes and flashbacks hanging out of their place. Anyway, the what she's watching on TV is this boxing match, and it just keeps like looping. It's like it skips and then plays the same 10 seconds again.
Yeah.
Which was very odd. Sarah gets up at some point and like does something in the kitchen and comes back out, but I couldn't tell anything significant happening in that scene. But at the same time, that was another point when my internet started being choppy. My internet was really choppy while watching this episode. I'm not sure why.
It was Bob.
So
Bob was
I'm
coming back.
I think Bob was seriously like, the Black Lodge was like, don't watch. It was trying to make me not watch.
You know, even though I'm going to contradict myself here just for a second, I did see somebody, because that was it was a very unsettling scene, of course, because it goes back to the last episode. We've really just seen the toll that the loss of Laura and Leland has had on her, all these years later, because she just doesn't care about herself. It doesn't seem like, as the amount of smoking and drinking she does. She's just, I don't know. You really see the toll it's taken on her. But, yeah, for her to be watching this 10-second clip over and over again, just like, I don't know. Yeah, only a person that's like crazy or not in their right mind would do that. And like, she's treating it like it's normal television,
Right.
A couple things though, but this is my point I was getting to was, since it was an older boxing match, people were thinking maybe it was a Battling Bud clip that she was watching.
Oh, perhaps. Yeah.
And on her like TV stand, there's a couple of like little figures of bunnies, and so people are like, maybe it is all about the bunny, like after all, because with the Lucy and the chocolate bunny. At the beginning.
Yeah.
Because that's...
Yeah, maybe it was the bunny.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly, because that was from the original series, too, where Coop has, like, a box of chocolate bunnies. I don't remember at what point in the story it's from.
Very, very early.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was definitely, like, the first season, right?
Yeah, it was one of the first episodes.
Yeah. People are suspecting that maybe Bob is in her at this point. Do you think that could be anything? Maybe that's like what the noise was.
Potentially, but you never know. It could just be an odd way of grieving. I think that perhaps maybe spirits do reside around the Palmer household.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. But she's always had... I don't know if it was directly because she married Leland, or maybe it was by fate that they ended up together. Or maybe it has something to do with the Bob bug from all those years ago. If that really was her that ended up swallowing the frog bug or whatever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, she's always had obviously the ability to see sort of the world we don't, with the white horse and everything. So I don't know.
Well, and she had the dream about Jacoby picking up the necklace.
Oh, right. So, yeah, who knows? But whether it's just her ability to see these things or maybe Bob is in her, we don't know at this point, but something's definitely going on with her.
Yeah.
We have to figure out what the hell is going on. Sorry.
What the hell? So after that, we go back to Audrey and Charlie, my favorite sitcom.
And this scene was more bizarre than last week's, I think.
Yeah. It was shorter, but it was more bizarre. um, Audrey's still trying to get Charlie to say what happened on the phone. He's like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm very tired.
Charlie's always tired. To me, I mean, we can talk about the exact scene because I don't. Maybe I missed something. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Me either.
But it seemed kind of like Charlie, and maybe you disagree with this, but it seemed like he kind of had some sort of like mental like hold over her, like mental power over her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Some kind of leverage.
Yeah, and in the last episode, it seemed like the complete opposite. She was like fuck you, like
I'm going.
I'm going. Yeah, like she was so ready to leave, and now this episode, like what's the quote that Charlie says? Like, you're saying you want to go, but you look like you want to stay, or something like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe, again, it's so hard to say with these characters when we're only getting like this is the second we seen with her. But it's been, 25 years since we saw her last, right? And the last thing that we saw with her was she was in a fucking explosion, yeah, and ended up going into a coma. So maybe she suffered some sort of, I don't know,
mental trauma,
some setbacks from that, and maybe that's what we're seeing. I really don't know, but yeah, she seemed like extremely worried, and she's like, "Where are we going?" And he's like, "The Roadhouse. You know that." Like, you know where it is. So, I don't know. I don't know where this disconnect's coming from or what the source of it is, but it certainly doesn't seem like the Audrey that we used to know.
Mm-hmm. She says, I feel like I'm someone else, and I feel like I'm somewhere else.
Right. Yeah, that was really big to me. I don't know.
And she's like, do you ever feel like that? He's like, no, I always feel like me.
He's like, sometimes it's not great, but I'm always me. Or whatever the fuck he says.
Yeah. And then another weird thing that she said is, it's like Ghostwood here. And I'm not sure what she could have meant by that.
So do you think they're in Twin Peaks, like if they're going to the Roadhouse, or do you think they're somewhere near it?
I mean, I believe they're in Twin Peaks because they talk about having to, maybe like the outskirts, because he said something about in the last episode that there was thousands of acres of forest out there.
Right.
They have to be somewhere close to Twin Peaks if they're just going to go to the Roadhouse and it's not far,
Yeah.
Yeah. I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, man. I don't know. It's a really weird dynamic that I can't really put my finger on, just because, again, like, it's gone back and forth. So I don't know where that's gonna go, but Charlie's very tired. That's all we can say.
Very tired.
Yeah, I mean,
go
ahead.
What one more quote that I had written down was he said something along the lines of, "Am I going to have to end your story too?"
Yeah. Yeah, like,
what the hell does that mean?
I mean, I don't know how you can hear that and like not feel threatened by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so is Charlie menacing? Because he has like that kind of posture when he's sitting back, like, I don't know.
Spooky.
He's a bad boy. I think Charlie might be a bad boy. I don't know. Because I don't know it seems like there's some sort of like legal obligation to their relationship too, and their marriage. So I really don't know what's going on with them. But I can't help but think, and I keep going back to last week's episode where she's like, "You're not going to tell me?" It just feels like she's speaking for the audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Where it's like, where this whole, like, I don't know, I don't want to get too, I don't want to be too dramatic, but in a sense, it feels like David Lynch is kind of reshaping how shows do storytelling, at least in the sense of pacing in this modern day. Maybe, I'm sure someone would disagree with me on that, but yeah, or at least how things are today, where we want things now, like we want all the answers, but again, we're 5 episodes away from it being over, and we still are left with so many questions, and we still don't know the full story.
Right.
And
Right.
I don't think we ever will to a complete happy ending, you know what I mean? But give me something, man. I don't know.
Well, do you got anything more to say about the Audrey Charlie incident this
No,
week?
I hope we get another scene with them next week, but or maybe a little bit more. I would
Yeah.
love to see all of. I mean, that's what's so crazy. It's like all of these stories are leading up to these people going back to Twin Peaks, but it just hasn't happened yet.
Hopefully it happens. Hopefully something like that happens.
Anyway, after that we get our boy James Hurley.
Yes, the Roadhouse is proud to present the James Hurley.
And he performs his classic hit record. What's it called?
Just you.
It's too bad we can't.
And I
Need to add a delay effect to those vocals.
Awful. Like the worst thing about the original series, David Lynch brings back.
You were never a fan?
I was never a fan of Just
Yeah.
You. Fuck, awful. I hated watching this the first time it was in there. I feel uncomfortable every time it's on, and maybe that's the point, but I don't want it. Get
It's
it out.
very menacing, very dark, ominous.
And it has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
There was no reason for that song to be in there.
Man. Yeah, I don't know. You know this is completely off topic. It always bothers me in like television and movies when there's a song that somebody's performing and there's like a backing track that isn't actually there, like drums or like strings or something, you know.
Yeah.
For whatever reason that always bothers me. And like again with like him having like the delay on his vocals, like maybe he's performing now in an actual like concert at the bar or whatever, at the Roadhouse. So maybe he could, but I don't know. In the original, I'm like, why does it sound like this? Very nitpicky, but whatever.
No, you're totally, you're not
that
off
warranted?
kilter there.
All right.
That's 100% warranted.
Okay. So yeah, he moves a girl to tears also with the performance.
Yeah.
Not me.
That was bizarre. Yeah, it moved me to rage.
There you go. But yeah, I mean, after that we see Big Ed back at the pump, sadly looking out, almost as if he's waiting for Norma to show up, but she's not showing up.
Mm-hmm. He's eating some cup noodles.
Very sadly. I think, does he like set a piece of paper on fire?
It was a matchbook.
Oh, okay.
I think he just burnt a matchbook. But after the episode, somebody brought to my attention, if you look at his reflection, it jumps like it jumps to like a different position. Like it's almost like his reflection isn't his reflection.
Whoa. I'll have to take a look at that. I did not catch anything like that. Man, that's interesting. I hope we get a Big Ed scene in each remaining episode now. I really do.
Big Ed, the return.
Big Ed, the
I
return.
want that to be a spin-off.
Indeed. Big Ed, like his haircut, real cool. Like Big Ed, dude, he's aging with grace, and I hope it all works out for him.
Oh, me too.
One thing that we didn't talk about, do you think that Tim Roth and Jennifer Jason Leigh, do you think they are headed to Vegas? Because they're in Utah, so they just have to cross the border to get there.
Very well could be. Maybe they're meeting up with Duncan Todd.
That could be. They also could be heading to Twin Peaks, though, depending on...
Right.
Or maybe they're making a pit stop.
Who knows? We'll just have to see what happens. They're probably going to make a couple more Wendy's stops on the way. It's a bit of a trip.
Well, you know what? They're probably headed to Vegas because were they in South Dakota? Is that right? No, where were they at?
Where did they say that prison was? Because I mean, it had to be the same town if the warden.
I think,
or close by to where the warden.
It had to have been South Dakota, right? Because that's where Gordon and.
Well, they're in North Dakota,
or
aren't
North
they?
Dakota.
Or you know what? No, they're in Buckhorn, South Dakota.
Okay. So yeah, that would make
Yeah.
sense for them to be going to Vegas because if you look on a map, they would be going through Montana to get to Washington, like where Twin Peaks is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
who knows where that's going? But damn. Any other final thoughts, my friend?
No, none that I can think of. I think we covered everything I've got written down.
Oh yeah.
Well, thanks again for listening, guys. We're really, really good at ending podcasts, I should say.
Yeah.
We always do it with style and grace. Give us a big old thumbs up and a subscribe if you love Big Ed as much as we do. Leave us a comment if we missed anything this episode, or leave your thoughts on what's going on, what you think is going on. Help us through it, because that's what we're here for. We want to learn more.
Yep, this is an open conversation. We love to hear from you. So we will talk to you soon, and if not, we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, I'll see you then, or I'll see you at another time. That was really confusing. I don't know if they're coming back. Anyway, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Take care.